Welcome to a new episode of Ment. I'm Ritvika Gupta. We'd like to begin today's show on a somber note, paying tribute to veteran industrialist Rahul Bajaj, who passed away on 12 February 2022. The chairman emeritus of the Bajaj Group, Rahul Bajaj was awarded the third highest civilian award in India, the Padma Bhushan, in 2001. He was also the man behind the iconic Bajaj brand that resonated with aspirations of the middle class in a pre-liberalized India. Listen into a few tributes to the man who greenlit one of India's most iconic campaigns, Hamara Bajaj.
Mr. Rahul Bajaj's loss is like a loss of a father figure for me. I knew him from long before we started working with Bajaj. He used to meet me at industry functions. He was extremely kind to me and encouraging to me, motivated me. And thereafter, when he used to see me at Bajaj, working on brands with Rajiv, he used to see me and say, "Don't forget, you're having lunch with me in my room along with my sons." And every time he used to take me there, talk to me about the world and life, share a lot of things. So he was like a father figure to me. And he was like a father figure to the industry, manufacturing industry, the branding industry, and a wonderful personality who minced no words. He was a man who spoke his heart out. And above all, what I loved about him is he wore India in his heart. So, R.I.P. Rahulji. My best to the family and all the employees and associates of Bajaj.
He was outspoken. He was everything. But I think what made him really great was not only because he made Bajaj a great company, but he allowed it to become greater.
A client gets what he deserves. And at that point in time, to approve of this campaign, which did not talk so much about the product, was something which talks a lot about the man's understanding. He wanted to project Bajaj as being part of every household, capture it as the spirit of India. And that is what he was doing on the marketing side. And his go-ahead was a big thing at that point in time, because if you look at advertising during that phase, it was all about talking about product. The critical role played was by Shumantra Ghoshal, the filmmaker. It is his idea, how he saw the film, how he understood the brief. The brief was recreate the campaign, The Heartbeat of America for Chevrolet. This Buland Bharat Ki Buland Tasveer was the last attempt. And he just went for it. He said, that's it. And that is the way it was presented.
Like all really, really good clients, he had the philosophy that you know your business, I know mine. We've hired you because you know your business. We would just ask you to truly understand us. And I hope that this Hamara Bajaj campaign, which I find quite off the wall, do you feel that it will make a mark? And we felt, look, finally, any advertising campaign you do is half right and half wrong, right? Research can only tell you so much. But we had a feeling that with a sort of patriotic feeling that exists among Indians. And, one of that single word that sums us up is nostalgia. That's why we love old Hindi film music. And he went with it. And there was no question of tinker this and change that. He said, look, it's a prayer we all live on. And we went with it.
On the show today, we'll be focusing on the debut of Creative Comeback for the Indian advertising industry. Creative Comeback is an initiative that aims to help women in the creative sector deal with the bias in re-entering the workforce after a career break. The program is backed by inclusion organization Creative Equals with support from Diageo and D&AD, the Global Association for Creative Design and Advertising. To better understand what this initiative is all about, Anant Rangaswami, editor of Melt, will be in conversation today with Deepika Warrier, Chief Marketing Officer at Diageo India, the program sponsor. Let's get ready to melt with Deepika Warrior.
Hi, Deepika.
Hi, Anand. So good to see you again. It's been a while.
So good to see you. This, unfortunately, on a Zoom call, not face to face.
Correct.
Anyway,
the last time we met, we were bonding over Sachin, I think.
Yes, we were.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
So tell me a little more so that my viewers can understand, what is Creative Comebacks all about?
This is something that I'm personally very passionate about, and all of us in Diageo, really have a heart in this program. So, Anant, let me pull back first and let me just talk about the fact that Diageo globally and in India are very committed to the whole DE&I agenda, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Gender diversity is one part of it. We also look at, ethnicities, orientation, the gender spectrum, you name it. We believe that the category that we're in, we're a social product. Our product is supposed to aid socialization, enable connections, conversations, and therefore, we're all about celebrations. That's probably when you reach out for one of our products. And therefore, who better than us? I mean, it behooves us to be inclusive and diverse. And we believe it's our responsibility. And that's also kind of encapsulated in our, the corporate vision, which is celebrate life every day and everywhere. And we believe that this set of values is actually based very strongly on the values of inclusion and diversity and equity. Our partnership with the Creative Equals, who are a social agency, global social inclusion agency, started in 2019. And the first programs were actually conducted in London and New York. And I think London's now hitting its 4th year. It's actually a celebration of this philosophy in many positive ways. And essentially the essence of the idea is, how do you bring back talent within the industry and within the industry that we're all operating in, which is, creativity, content, advertising, media, you name it, marketing. And it's all about, how do we recognize talent who've taken a pause for whatever reason? It could be, an aging parent, it could be childcare, it could be mental well-being, for whatever reason. How do we recognize the fact that the core talent still remains? Let them savor the pause, as one of our brands would say, Black Dog would say. I think that pause is not something to feel ashamed about. That pause is something that they should acknowledge as added to their life experiences. And how do they come back and leverage both that gap that they've taken, but with some new training that we provide them, to come back anew into the creative process. And thereby, how we benefit as an industry or the ecosystem, creative ecosystem, is that we get in diversity at the heart of creative work. And at the same time, we also, of course, benefit, these returnees, as we call it.
There are two issues. One is the supply side, that is number of returnees who want jobs.
Correct.
One is the demand side,
Correct.
Which is the number of companies who want to hire people like that.
Correct.
So I don't see a great problem with the supply side, especially with today's economy. I think a lot of families want a second income back into their house.
Yeah.
But on the demand side, I'm a little cynical. So just explain to me your views on the supply side and the demand side.
It's a great question, and it all boils down to economics ultimately, right? For me, as a woman, I sometimes shy away from gender diversity. I'm very happy to say, no, let's be broader. But the reality is we have a live problem when it comes to gender diversity in India. So let's first address that fairly and squarely. And if you just pull back and you look at some statistics, and there's some crazy statistics, I made some notes of it, and I'll just talk about it. And this is post COVID-19, and of course we know that our diversity ratio when it comes to, let's say, in the workplace, is as it is abysmal as compared to global standards. But post-COVID, these figures have become even more staggering. So, I think there was an Aziz Premji University report which talked about women are 11 times more likely to not work after COVID job loss. Or there's a LinkedIn opportunity index survey which says that, it's not just about not having a job, but the fact that to return to, but it's also about how 85% of women in India have missed out on a raise or a promotion because of their gender. I mean, that's shameful. And that how India is actually much worse off. It was a study that was done across Asia Pacific. And then while about 66% of respondents in India believe that gender equality has improved as compared to their parents' age, working women in India still contend a stronger gender bias across Asia Pacific. And, I can just get into it. It's all the 60s and 70s to say, working women saying they're finding it difficult to balance career and familial responsibilities. 7 out of 10 women saying that household responsibilities will come in the way. Therefore, even at the supply side, Anand, I just want to say that, while the need might be there, they still need, these women or people of, let's say, undetermined sexual orientation still need the push to kind of propel them. And I think programs like this, to that extent, provide that kind of stimulus to say, yeah, absolutely, I need to go back, or I need to ask for that promotion, I need to ask for that raise. So I think that's one aspect on the supply side. On the demand side, I think what we want to use this program to make come alive, and we as Diageo want to be the first to kind of talk about this. So the way the program is going to go, and I'll talk a little more in the detail about it, but the output that comes out of the program, the creatives and the content that they produce, it will go through a contest, and we as Diageo commit to put advertising rupees behind it, which talks about how, and which will kind of underline quality of the creative, and therefore make these people who are creating that creative employable and hireable by not only the partner agencies who are going to participate in this program, but also people are watching this program. So I think we'll have to walk the talk and make this come alive through a proof of concept, and that's what we're attempting to do. And this is just the beginning. I'm not saying the numbers that we'll kind of achieve with this program will be relatively small, but I think and there will be a certain symbolic value to it. But I think it's a start, and we must. It's a start, and someone needs to make that start in the creative ecosystem. I know other companies also starting this progress. Let me not be arrogant in saying we're the only ones who are doing it. But I think, we at least believe that as, brand makers and people who work with the best creative ecosystem, we need to kind of, kick this off. There are also, Anant, a lot of examples from how this has worked in other countries. So for example, 85% of returners who actually took part in these programs in London, Manchester, New York, actually went back to freelance or full-time contracts post the program. And a duo set up their own agencies. And one of the partners who's actually collaborating with us for creative comebacks, a lady called Tejali Shetty, was in the winning team for our creative comebacks London event, and she went to set up her own agency, Roll Dot agency, and is now an ACD at Grey London, and she's actually helping us conceptualize this for India. I think these success stories do exist, but I agree, doing the program will just be the beginning, and I think we need to then stay the course in terms of then kind of embedding and ensuring that that the people who come out of this program are getting those contracts to work both with the agency system as well as the marketing ecosystem. And that's something I personally am very committed to.
Let me ask you, is this a bad time to do something like this? Because to my mind, nobody wants to acknowledge it, but advertising, media and marketing have all seen a bloodbath in the 2017, 18, 19, 20 period.
Yes.
Where headcount is shrunk by 30, 40, 50%. And I'm not exaggerating those numbers. Like I said, this is numbers nobody wants to acknowledge, but it's fact.
Yeah.
So is a bad time to launch something like this? When I say bad, is it making your job more difficult?
No, I don't think so. And now let me talk as an advertiser, Anant, and I'm, this is off the brief, and I'm just talking off the top of the hat to you. Marketing is going through marketing. When I mean marketing, I mean the extended marketing ecosystem, which of course includes content, community, what you name it, is going through a sea change. And what we're realizing that the older model, which is where you put out a brief and a bunch of very solid creatives and their younger partners worked on it, came back, presented a campaign, and then we, amplified it. And this. I mean, I'm
absolutely.
That died like some years ago. And now, even being always on and engagement is not enough. So we, as marketers, and I think advertisers, are looking for fresh ideas, fresh ways of harnessing creativity, new ways of working, and you're seeing content production hubs coming up, right? Whom you engage, and they come up with content, which is, could be written blogs, or it's actually audiovisual content as well. So I think the time is right. We want physically, logistically wanted to do this a year ago, and then of course we couldn't, and we wanted to do it in person, didn't want to make it a boring Zoom thing, and and then we had to push it out. So there's physical logistics wise, it's a little challenge, but I think in terms of an idea whose time has come, I think it's bang on. This is the time to do it.
For my viewers to understand, how does this program work?
Thank you. And this is where I plug it. So it's actually for folks who are watching, who's our cohort that we're targeting. So this is obviously female creatives, older women in the marketing and the advertising fraternity, mothers, all women, non-binary, gender non-conforming people, the essential thing is who've taken a break in their career in creative. and creative is a broad definition, and we're happy to look at all definitions of it. Of course, some of the classic talent pool definitions are art directors, copywriters, designers, but happy to go wider as well. So if you have a creative mind and you've been forced to take a break, forced to have willingly taken a break for personal reasons, you're right for this program. The second thing is it's actually a 2-week boot camp. That's the way it'll work. So in the first week, we'll get our returnees to meet their fellow attendees and jam a bit, warm up to each other, and we'll create teams of 2 to 3. They'll then meet creative mentors from one of our partner agencies. So far, we've already got many partners who are excited, and we're actively, for people who are watching, we're actively looking for more partners to be part of this. And together, these groups will then receive a creative advertising brief from Diageo. So globally, the brands who've partnered include, Bailey's. I mean, really brands that you can create really exciting content around. Smirnoff, Captain Morgan. Again, fun brands where you can create very progressive and clutter-breaking pieces of content around. So, similarly, we have similar briefs waiting in India. And we've then partnered with D&AD, who's the global partner for Creative Equals. And they will then help run sessions to help these, groups then flex their creative muscles. They'll also, and, get up to speed with creative industry trends. And we'll also have a digital platform sponsor who will then run a very detailed workshop to immerse this cohort into future-back digital trends. They'll also get a portfolio kit, and they will hear from key speakers on how to navigate today's job market. And I'm actively also looking for speakers and sponsors for the program. So Anant, I'd love you if you could also be part of it shamelessly, asking for your time. And likewise, I'm going to reach out to all the greats, young and new in the industry, who'd love to maybe contribute their time and make this process really rich. That's actually week 1. And week 2, what they're going to do is 3 days working as a brief with support from a creative mentor on the Diageo brief. They'll then present their campaign ideas or designs back to a jury, which will consist of a creative ecosystem, including Diageo folks, and a winning presentation will be chosen. And our promise is the content that comes out of the winning presentation will be produced and aired by Diageo. So it's not just something that will stay on a PowerPoint. And lastly, we will on the final day also host a talent day for these folks to meet HR, talent, hiring managers from our agency partners in the wider network who will offer them career and portfolio advice. And who knows, the work is exciting. I mean, and we're not promising that because, as you said, we can't put a gun to anyone's head. But there could be opportunities sitting there either directly or in a contract format. And the last thing that I did want to say is please do apply. There's nothing to lose. Head to www.creativeequals.org/creative-comeback-Mumbai. Please fill in the application form. The applications are open till 25th of February 2022, so there's not much time left. And the program will take place physically in Mumbai between 28th of March and 8th of April.
Now, my challenge is we are, after all, kind of show that has got a very influential but small audience. Yes. How do enough women get to know that this initiative exists?
We don't want to do like big bucks advertising campaign. We can't even do it, being the category that we're in. But what we are going to do is we have put aside some funds to promote this on platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and we will put it out on social media. And we will ensure there is a certain amount of awareness. In addition to that, of course, we are going to use our own handles everywhere. All the Diageo folks are partners, and we will encourage anyone who's willing to share and just put the word out to do more and more of this. So, but we will promote it a bit just to ensure that we drive awareness.
Right. Now, this is a question I generally like to ask marketers when they talk about a new ad campaign or whatever. Yeah. How would you satisfy yourself that what you're doing has worked?
This has nothing to do with driving consideration or awareness on our brands because it's not a branded program at all.
Sure.
The program is branded Creative Comebacks. Creative Equals is the partner.
So how do you know that Creative Comebacks, the campaign has worked? How would you know that?
It will work. It'll work if we get the requisite number of applications, if we get enough excited people, the quality of the program, the 2 weeks that we run, quality of the content that comes out of it that we put out, as proof of concept. And between you and me, I would love it if at least 2 or 3 people who come out of this program land themselves at least a contract, a work contract, if not a job with, in our ecosystem. So, and then of course, there is demand to do this year on year and just, we'll just keep expanding the audience.
Right at the top of this conversation,
yeah,
you spoke about gender diversity and, I've been spending a lot of time trying to understand ESG and yes, how companies are following ESG. And, there's a lot of talk about the E, which is a lovely headline, G, which is required by the stock market clearly, but S is a little off. And in India, it's far more complicated because we are dealing in this conversation also only with the simplicity of gender.
Yeah.
We are not getting into the next layer of caste and religion and so on, which are complex diversity issues in India.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is there any, and I see this with a lot of international templates. Are you provoked to think of something different in India to include more diversity metrics, if I can call it that?
So, Anand, that's a great question. Actually, the S of the ESG is something that Diageo is absolutely passionate about. Actually, we do really well in it. So, just visit our global website or even India. And to your point, as part of our Society 2030 goals globally, we've defined it way beyond gender. Gender is absolutely an important part of it, and we do well in it. Even if you look at India, 50% of our excom is actually women now. It's a conscious, decision, and really capable women, if I may say so. 50% of our hires have been women. So I think gender is something that we shouldn't shirk away from in India, and that's something that we really, I would say, front foot forward. However, absolutely right. Globally and in India, we are looking at the whole the D&I in a far more layered way than just gender diversity. So just some examples. It's also about equity. So examples like, and you can refer the website, extending paternity leave of 6 months to male employees. Not just because they need a break, but just so that they walk the talk, and it's an equal responsibility between men and women. Expanding our policies to LGBTQI employees in our company. I think we were one of the first to do it. But you're right, we are working more towards thinking through how do we expand this to ethnicity, religion, race. It's complex in India because even if you call it out, you might end up being seen as excluding or labeling. So I think it's a little more complex in India than it is globally. Though globally, it's a clear metric that we're chasing in terms of increasing our ethnicity. It could be in our global brand teams, where we are trying to increase the percentage of people from the I would say West European or US market. So and definitely ethnicity is a part of that. So it's something that we're thinking through, and but Anant, you must agree it's a complex issue in India. It's not as easy to say reserve X percentage for a religion. That also then makes it it could be seen as labeling, or so we are working through it. The one thing that I can personally tell you that I am very invested in, we've just done this massive piece of work around D&I in terms of understanding consumers, and we've looked at the spectrum, we've looked at ethnicity as well. And the one thing that I'm absolutely sure about, and you'll see it hopefully, is in the content that we put out, we do want to get more and more progressive and unafraid when we do that. And I know there's a lot of controversy out there, but at least in the content that we put out, we do want to give agency to the right kind of people. We want to ensure that the gaze is right, so we're taking care of all of that. And you'll hopefully see a lot of that, particularly on brands like Johnny Walker, and you'll see that. I'd love to do a follow-up conversation with you and maybe share some of that work. Yeah.
Fantastic. So congratulations again on what you're trying to do with Creative Comebacks. Yeah. In my personal capacity and talking for all of us at Melt, we'll be more than happy to help. And look forward to a follow-up conversation, both on your brand work on the bread and butter business that you have, and on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melt team.
Well, the Creative Comeback program in India starts from 28th March 2022. The 2-week program will be conducted virtually and has agencies including FCV India, VMLY&R, Virtue, and DDB Mudra Group as partners. For more details and to apply, visit creativeequals.org/Creative Comeback Mumbai. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of Melt. You can follow us on social media. Our handle is Ready to Melt, and stay updated with all that's happening in the world of advertising and marketing with our daily Melt update on our website, readytomelt.com. I shall see you next week. Goodbye.